Welcome to RPG Book Club. On today's episode, we beat the game just in time to realize we're doing it wrong the entire time.
Welcome to the RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
I am Sam Allman.
And I am Michael Webben. This is Smooth Sounds of the 70s.
Ooh, very fancy.
Yeah, as you guys can tell, because of your patronage, we have been able to afford Michael to have a new microphone, so he's no longer in our, radioed, telephoned-in guest.
It's about
hear all my awful
time.
opinions in HD.
So today we'll be discussing Chapter 5 of Sailor Moon Another Story, entitled After the Battle. Before we get started, though, how was everyone's week?
My week was pretty good, a little stressful, not just because I work for Blizzard when we launched a video game, but
Whoops.
but also, so Scarlett has started doing this thing where she'll be like, hey, Dad, except not this eloquently, she'll just be like, hey, Dad, I want to go eat something. I'm like, oh, what would you like to eat? She's like, something in the pantry. And I'm like, all right, would you want this? No. This? No. This? No. This? No. This? Yeah. Pour it to her in a bowl, bust down crying for an hour because I insulted her by giving her the exact thing that she pointed at that she wanted. And
What?
yeah, kids are super stressful sometimes. But then
I'm so glad I'm just going to be an uncle.
Up until the part at the very end, I was thinking, are you talking about your little child, or are you talking about my spouse?
You've given me exactly what I wanted. How
This is not the stereotypical man always bitching about his wife thing. No. Melissa is incredible, but they are also incredibly strange in a few particular ways.
Isn't everyone?
But yeah, that's been my morning every morning for about the past week. But what about you,
Great.
Eli?
I'm tired. That's pretty
Okay.
much my life now. I haven't done that much. I mean, World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth launched Monday, and I got to play some before the servers crashed and made it to level 114.
Ooh.
So
Too many levels.
I mean, I know a couple of people who made it to 120 already, and it's been 2 days. It's just gonna take me a little bit longer than normal because of my stupid, horrible schedule. But I'll deal with it. I'll still be 120 within the first week.
Yeah, I am trying to decide if I want to play it or if I need to stick onto that Persona grind so that I can get all of the games that I want to get between now and January.
Probably that. Oh yeah, my parents are going to be in town next week too. They won't be here, so I will be able to record next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that, I won't be available.
Okay. That's totally fine. Gives you plenty of time to get started on Xenogears before episode 2, so...
But
but that means you're not going to be there to get mad about the bullshit that happened in the first chapter.
Oh, I'm sure.
Regarding a female character.
I'm sure that I will be able to interject my anger about the bullshit in the next episode.
There's actually only a little bit of bullshit in the first chapter.
I'm sure.
The actual thing that I'm mad that you'll miss is there's a trans person that's closeted and questioning themselves that you can encourage to be their true self in the first 2 seconds
really?
of the game. Yeah, in the first village, there's a person the hill in the middle, and she's just like, man, all the men get to do blah 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 blah, and the women have to do yada yada yada, and I don't feel like a woman. If only I was a man, I could go and do everything. Is that weird?
That's awesome.
And you can be like, that's not weird, that's awesome. And she's like, oh, thank you. Here's a potion, and
Here's a potion.
it's super cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wish I got a potion for encouraging people in real life.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, as far as my parents being here goes, this will be the first time in the almost decade that I've lived in Austin that they will have come visited me.
Yay!
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that about because parents visiting sometimes is good, sometimes is not good, sometimes is stressful. So what are you anticipating?
Well, my parents are awesome. Ken
Good.
honestly got the best in-laws in the entire world. I, however, did not. But that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, I have been here in Austin for almost a decade. My parents live in West Virginia. That was where I was born and raised.
Mhm.
And we go on family vacations, or we used to go on family vacations like every year. Within the last years, since I don't live with them, they have timeshares, actually. So what Ken and I have been able to do is go on road trips and stay in the timeshare with them when they've gone to the beach. This year, they chose to have their timeshare in New Braunfels. Because they can, like every other year, that one, they can choose different areas. Usually they go to Florida, but this year they were coming to Texas. So we're going to go stay in New Braunfels. We're going to visit Austin. We're going to visit San Antonio. I might take them down to the Gulf at some point, like to Galveston or something. It's going to be real fun. I'm super excited to have them here and get to show them my house finally and take them around.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Take them around Blizzard and show them the nerdy office where I work. So
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
That's super great.
Question.
Yes.
What's a timeshare? Just kidding.
Real-
No, I think I vaguely understand what a timeshare is. I've always just jokingly, because timeshares for me, I know like what it is, but
Yeah.
to me, I always just laugh because like that's the thing that people have like in sitcoms that your parents watch, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
as a millennial, I have no concept of what a timeshare means for me in my life, and will never have one.
Well, which is weird. Which is weird too, because I'm actually going to be inheriting one of my parents' timeshares.
Oh,
Like this is a thing that you can pass down to your children. Apparently,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, my sister's getting one of their timeshares, and I'm getting the other, and I'm hoping to get the one that's just in Myrtle Beach. Because I fucking love Myrtle Beach, and then my sister can have the other one where she goes wherever. I'm just a man of habit,
Yeah.
and I know what I like, and I will go to the place that I like.
Yeah, I mean, if you have timeshares like 3 different places, it's like, wait, but I like the one place. Why can't I just go that place every time?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
But yeah.
to slightly answer your question, Spiffl, timeshares are is kind of like a
Like
socialized.
multiple people are owning a couple of different properties, right? And
Yeah.
you're just like, hey, I want to go to this one at this time. And people are like, okay, as long as someone else doesn't say they want to go there too.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right? Okay, yeah.
And for people who have their head on straight, it's a super awesome way to have a consistent vacation destination. But for people like my parents who are not good with money and incredibly poor, it's a way to just throw away money forever and never even look at it. So
I mean, even for my parents, like who are really good with money,
Mhm.
but have a lot of credit card debt, it's probably not the best option. But like, we used to get vacations where we would get free tickets to things and all this stuff because my parents would go to timeshare presentations, and it is a really good way to get free crap, but it's really, really, really difficult to avoid their sales pitch. And eventually my parents caved, partially because they realized, well, we go on vacation every year anyway, and it would be nice to just have a guaranteed spot where we could go on vacation instead of getting a motel room. So
Yeah, see, that's like the stereotype in like cartoons and sitcoms is that like, oh, I got my wrist twisted into buying a timeshare, and then the
Right.
other person's like, you idiot, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But that's kind of what happened to my parents. Like my dad was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go, and all we have to do is watch it. Then I can bring you back a new iPod." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "I brought you back a new iPod and also some more debt." 'Cause that's what we needed.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thankfully my parents are very like careful
Yeah.
about that sort of thing. But it's definitely like it's a trap for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
It's definitely a trap. It's one of those like traps that like is super nice. Where like even though you know, like, because my dad was like, "Look, I'm not going to buy anything. I'm just going to go and I'm going to get the free iPod. I'm going to come home." Even then, he was like, "Look, this is a trap, but it looks really nice." So
It's a nice trap.
Well, that's the best kind of trap, is a trap that you can trap someone even if they know it's a trap.
Yeah, exactly. How about your week, Spiffl? How have you been?
I don't know, man. My life's weird. I got all sorts of stuff going on. It's strange. But overall, good. As I saw on the Discord, I went to a psychiatrist and got a diagnosis for ADHD, which I think is going to be really awesome for my life, actually, because it's been a huge problem.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
And I got some pills, and I started taking them on Sunday, and I'm not sure if it's helping a whole lot yet, but I haven't really been in the kind of situation where my ADHD is a problem yet. It has made me sleepier, but that's because, it's anti-ADHD, so you're less hyperactive. But also, I have not been getting enough sleep, and I know that that's actually part of the problem as well. But I'm going to make a concentrated effort to get more sleep, but the last couple days in particular, there has been no way. There have been things that need doing. Sailor Moon, for example, because I got behind. But after today, I'm going to start making better life choices and stuff like that, and I hope that yesterday, actually, no, I got home, and instead of just dicking around on my phone and being unable to sit down and pacing constantly like I usually do, I alternated between cleaning the kitchen, making dinner, answering a few important emails, and playing Sailor Moon, and I did that pretty much consistently without just sitting down on the couch and spacing out or anything like that, which is what I normally do. So yeah, I feel good.
Nice job. One of these
other
days,
than that, life's just weird.
Yeah, one of these days, I too hope to make good life decisions.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Thanks. At least someone does.
Understand your accent.
Oh my gosh, we get huge SpongeBob references. When I sent you that picture of my new orb, and you were like, "It's the orb of," I forget what you referenced. But I was thinking, no, it's more like the orb of confusion.
Yeah, I almost
Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy.
I almost said the orb of confusion, but I went with the D&D reference instead.
I see. Yeah.
You have to set the belt for Wombo.
Sorry, guys. The RPG Book Club is canceled. This is now just a SpongeBob cast.
SpongeBob cast. Don't even tempt me like that, because I will.
So speaking of SpongeBob, this is an aside. This week we don't have a lot of time for asides, so I'll try to keep it straight. But so there's this myth that was propagated by everyone in your high school that SpongeBob stopped being good at some point. Like, a lot of people, it's like, oh, after, like, the band camp episode or whatever, like, it's never been good since. But that's a bald-faced lie, and SpongeBob, like, all the way until the end has been amazing. And so the most recent seasons are on Amazon Prime, and so we put it on for Scarlet one day and then watched all of the seasons that were out, and it's so good. So
SpongeBob.
I'm gonna slightly disagree on that. Maybe it bounced back, but this is not just nostalgia talking. There were a few seasons that were like, I would go in with an open mind, and I'm just like, this isn't good. And it wasn't just that it wasn't good; it was distinctly different. It was missing something, or it had something that wasn't supposed to be there, and it was like bizarre and weird. But maybe that was like maybe I just caught a bad season, and then it got better after that. So yeah sure, go for it.
If you have Amazon Prime, check out the later ones. I think it's like 7 or 8 are on Amazon Prime.
and then maybe work backwards in case there's like a slump. You know?
But anywho, let's talk about Sailor Moon this week, guys.
Yeah, let's do that. So last time on Sailor Moon, we fought Sin and got the Baruzuisho back from Prince Demond of the Black Moon. Yay!
And kicked him in the balls.
We did. Well, Sin did. Sin did. Definitely kicked him in the balls. So that brings us to this week. Anshar and Sin are talking, and Anshar says the rose crystal was stolen. And the translation has now switched to calling the crystals by their English names.
Right?
Yep.
Why?
So I don't know, but prepare to be confused if you don't know Japanese or Sailor Moon.
Or English.
Or English, yeah.
And now they keep saying fate instead of destiny.
Yeah. So I don't know if like the translators switched or if they like decided that like they needed to get good or something and like being a bunch of weebs was not working out. So they needed more English in there, but I don't know. Anyway, the Despacito Senshi managed to get a rainbow crystal, and Anshar wonders if their fate will change. Sin then asks to borrow Kyubey and goes to Apsu and talks to her about changing Shingo's fate since he's Sailor Moon's brother. So Apsu agrees because she's not quite ready to fuck everything up forever. And then we go to outside the Tsukino house Shingo finds Kyubey and makes a contract with him to become a magical girl. I mean, he takes Kishal into his house because, of course, that's what you do with a weird cat, dog, rabbit thing you've never seen before that's just wandering around outside.
And according to the boss battle sprite, spoilers that we're about to get to, it's a cat, dog, rabbit, alligator, werewolf thing.
It is freaky as fuck. Yeah.
I take back all the times I was like, oh my god, it's so cute for the rest of this game.
Maybe it's cute in some way. Someone thinks it's cute. Someone out there.
His mom thinks it's cute.
Yeah. Nobody loves you but your mother, and that's only because she has to. No. This is very mean of me. I'm sorry. So we cut to Mamoru's apartment again, and he apologizes for making Usagi worry about him. He's always damsel in distress, which is great. It's great to see a man be a damsel in distress for once.
Right?
So Makoto brings up a good point that if the enemy was targeting the silver crystal, why the hell would they care about Tuxedo Mask, who's literally worthless?
But you didn't do anything.
Goodbye. That I love that meme so much.
It's always relevant.
Yeah, always. So he explains that he's totally not worthless because in the manga he actually gets an attack and isn't just a convenient distraction. Also something about changing destiny indirectly because he's Chibiusa's dad, I guess. Blah blah blah.
So this right here, like this whole game has been built up saving Mamoru, and so you go and you save Mamoru, and he's like, all right, everything's awesome, and I'm fine, and I'm Tuxedo Mask again. Why wasn't he an 11th party member at this point? Like they could have.
He's worthless.
I mean, yeah, but like
he actually, yeah, he has no purpose in the original anime except as a convenient distraction. He has an attack in the manga, which is Tuxedo La Smoking Bomber, which, by the way, La Smoking means tuxedo in French. Yeah, so
cool.
it's quite the pun.
Tuxedo Bomber.
Yeah. So
Bomber means tuxedo in Welsh.
And I mean, it's tuxedo. So it's basically just a smoke bomb. So it's not even really that much of an attack, but it's better than literally nothing. Tossing roses, which I guess they're really sharp roses because they really stick in the ground.
Yeah, but I mean,
still,
he's Sailor Earth. Like, give him something. Jesus, I was hoping like that was just to focus on Sailor Moon, but no.
Yeah,
he's
in the canon. Men with Sailor Crystals are still not as powerful as women with Sailor Crystals.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It works, but like just talking like thematically and fan servicey, they should have given us, even if it's not him joining the party, just have a move for Sailor Moon that finally doesn't suck. Where
that would have been
where
cool.
He jumps in and they do something together.
That would be really cool. I don't think so. There's a number of Sailor Moon games with like they have a bunch of fighting games and puzzle games. This is the only one that's an RPG.
Yeah.
Tuxedo Mask is never a playable character. He is like a power up in a bunch of the puzzle games. But that's it. That's all he's good for. So, it's just a thing that Sailor Moon does.
Yeah.
I just for once want to be able to play as a man in a video game.
I know, God, all these women, Sailor Moon, Zelda, Metroid.
Or more realistically, all the men in games are powerful warriors. I want representation of me, a worthless sack of shit man. Where's my representation?
I'm sure
an idiot who can't do anything.
I'm sure there's something out there. Lester the Unlikely.
Yeah. Speaking of, real quick, I finally understand why representation is important, because like you just said, everyone in games is awesome, everyone in movies is awesome. There's never just a like stupid loser that talks too much. Until I watched Stargate Universe, the character Eli in that show is like a chubby pop culture referencing nerd who only got there because he was good at video games.
It's actually me. It's actually me.
I actually hated him at first, because I think at first he was supposed to be like kind of the main character, but then they ended up shunting him to the side as a side character, and after that point I liked him a lot more.
Yeah, he's so good.
People only like me as a side character. No, I get it now.
As a main character, it was the whole like Last Starfighter thing. It was weird.
Yeah, I loved him and I considered him the main character the whole time. So, so don't worry. That's just
philosophically he might be.
Just Spiffl hates you, Eli. It's not me.
Oh, okay, great, awesome.
But
I heard you, Spiffl.
Right. Digression.
Yeah, so Mamoru mentions that he had a dream in which he was talking with Kunzite about something born with the power of Mercury drawing close to the Earth of the future. Now, I suspect that this is a mistranslation because the word for Mercury in Japanese is suisei, which also happens to be the word for comet. And as we found out from the intro and some NPCs like Beryl, there's an evil comet headed toward Earth.
Okay, so I didn't know that those were the same word, so I didn't pick up on this right here. So then when you get to the end and it's like, oh, but that comet is still heading to Earth, I'm like, from the intro, that was real? Like, nobody in game ever mentioned it, because I didn't realize that, like, they were, like, leading up to it because of this translation error. It's kind of a really important translation error.
Yeah, well, and it's weird because, like, they say something with the power of Mercury, and Ami doesn't immediately go, I'm right here.
Yeah.
You know.
Hello.
Does this mean I'm the bad guy?
If Mercury ended up being the bad guy, I would have shut the game off immediately.
Oh, boy. You're going to love Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, then.
Oh, no.
I might have spoiled things. But, yeah, there's an interesting Mercury plot line that goes on in the live action. So we'll get to that. But,
yeah. Get to that this Saturday, but...
Yeah, I won't be able to watch the first part, unfortunately, because I have to work.
Yeah.
But I will be hosting on Sunday.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Because instead of just watching, like, a movie this time, we're watching an entire series, so we can put it out over as many days as we want.
It's so fucking good. I mean, it's terrible, but it's great. It's great in its terribleness. Anyway, digression aside. Mamoru goes on to say that whatever the comet is has the power to change fate, but not directly change its own fate, nor can it change the fate of the holders of the Silver Crystal or anyone around it. Hotaru, who's Sailor Saturn, then mentions that she was apart from the Silver Crystal long enough for her that her fate could be changed because she had been reincarnated as a baby, so she hadn't been near it, and that's why it was able to turn her into a kid again.
Yeah, this whole thing right here is all the different Senshi making up excuses for how they've been involved in the plot so far, because they're like all right, it's canon that all of Sailor Moon's friends can't be affected, and they're like but I was doing something, and so that's why I was here.
Well, I was in the bathroom at the time.
I was off screen.
Yeah. Ami explains that since she, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus were all in separate parts of the globe for a while, that it might have also caused them to be separated long enough from the Ginzui show, and that would change their fates. So they all start to kind of wonder if maybe their fates were changed and how they were changed, so they decide to go play Destiny and see what was patched in. Hotaru and Setsuna, who's Sailor Pluto, both agreed to go with Usagi and Chibiusa back to the Tsukino house, and then everybody else goes back to their own homes. So we say goodbye to Mamoru, and we head to Usagi's house. As soon as we get in, Usagi's immediately like, well, everything's fine, and just like, we could have just left there, and that would have been it.
He walks in the fucking front door, and it's just like, well, I see no need to examine further.
Yeah, pretty much. However, we all saw a cutscene where Shingo was making a contract with Kyubey, and the last thing we need for our little brother is to go all Homura on us. I'm so clever and original, making the same 3 jokes all the time. You all love it. Don't lie.
I mean, it could be worse. You could be referencing Homestuck.
Yeah. Like we might hide our Homestuck references, but they've been there in literally every episode, even before Spiffl came in.
The thing is, Homestuck, not just Homestuck, but more specifically Sweetborn Hello Jeff, it's not even a reference. It's just my lexicon.
Yeah.
It's just things that I say.
Yeah.
I think I've started reading MS Paint Adventures like 12 times now, but every time I get to like page 20, I'm like, all right, I'm bored. And then I give up.
Quick plug, if you ever feel like trying again, I don't know if when you say MS Paint Adventures what you mean exactly, but if you're starting with Homestuck, a better thing to do is start with Problem Sleuth, because Problem Sleuth is short and great.
I have, every time I look up Homestuck, it takes me to the first page of MS Paint Adventures, and I don't know what part of that is Homestuck.
Really?
So,
if you go to the website, there's like a very explanation of like, here are the different stories. Click here if you want to read
maybe
this.
I've never bothered to read that.
The stories before Problem Sleuth are good only as historical curiosity.
Okay.
They are interesting, but not actually good. Problem Sleuth is where it starts to get actually good, and Homestuck is where it starts to get, Homestuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think Problem Sleuth, because it's all making fun of Choose Your Own Adventures. If I remember correctly, Problem Sleuth was like community involvement sort of thing too.
Heavily.
Yeah.
Actually, if you go on the page, there's actually an about page where he explains like how the writing process developed over the course of the series. It's quite interesting. The main thing is the more popular it got, the less community involvement there was, ironically, and that's because when you're super popular and every single page you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of recommendations for what should happen next, you just get to pick the one you want.
Yeah.
So ironically, it became less community directed because there was too much community. And then by the time he got to Homestuck, he's like, okay, well now I'm done pretending. It's not community directed anymore.
Yeah.
My experience with Homestuck, aside from trying to read MS Paint Adventures and failing, is being a part of the Undertale fandom, and apparently, like, it's expected that as an Undertale fan, I'm also a Homestuck fan, which is like, there's 2 types of Undertale fans, the ones that came in because of Homestuck and the ones that just entered into Undertale, and I am the latter, and I, like, the Homestuck fans that I've run into in the Undertale fandom are the most obnoxious.
Yeah, they got a reputation for that. Yeah.
So what happened just last Homestuck aside before we get back into this? So Homestuck, like you keep mentioning MS Paint Adventures, that's just the name of his website. It's not a certain comic. Homestuck is the name of the comic. But Homestuck was like good and cool and all, but then got too good and too cool, and also like spoke out a lot about like the norm, and it basically became for modern kids what Invader Zim was for us. So it was like a way to be quirky and random and edgy and underground, and therefore it attracted all of the sort of people that were the things that made me not like Invader Zim anymore, and now they're making me not like Homestuck anymore. So
that's unfortunate.
Although I will say, unlike Invader Zim, I don't think it ever pandered to that. It just kept doing its own thing, even when fans got mad and didn't like it anymore. So that's what I think makes it still okay.
Yeah,
is that its community, its obnoxious, edgy fandom did not reverse seep back into the work itself. Except when the work is explicitly saying "fuck you" to them, which does a lot.
So I said last aside, but this is my actual last aside, just to elucidate that point.
Yeah, cool.
It's your Final Fantasy, as it were.
This is my Final Fantasy. But so for instance, the Tumblr community like constantly was shipping everybody, and like would get into huge wars over who is shipped with who. So Hussey, then,
as they do on Tumblr.
Then when he's talking about this alien race that's in there, he talks about their relationships and how they work, and it's this incredibly complicated, like uses playing cards, like matrix of things to make reproduction work, to make fun of people, to be like, now you can't ship it, but now everyone looks at that like, oh wow, that's so true, I totally have like a 4 of clubs with this guy or whatever, and it's like, no, I was making fun of you. Why?
That totally backfired on him. That's unfortunate.
But yeah, so like in while you're reading the comic, you won't get any of that like obnoxiousness there. Like it's pure on the page. But
okay.
But the people definitely are the worst part. So like when I go to conventions, I don't say that I'm a Homestuck.
Yeah. You're a closeted Homestuck fan.
Yeah.
Basically. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I will be the one not making the Homestuck references. We head into Shingo's room and he tells us not to barge in, and then Chibiusa collapses, saying she feels like her energy is being sucked out. Hotaru asks what the hell that thing is, like any normal person would probably do if they ran into something like Kishal. We hear Sin then through the ether saying that she'll give back Shingo if we give her the silver crystal, which Sailor Moon would probably do if Sin were actually present, because seriously, she's the least trustworthy person ever when it comes to protecting that thing.
I was shocked that for once she actually didn't immediately just be like, okay. I was like, wait, whoa, is this character growth? Did she learn to not do this?
No, I guarantee she is not.
Going back in time and watching all of her friends die changed her to just not trust strangers a little bit.
She's not a stranger. They've run into her before.
Yeah.
That's Usagi logic.
They're villains.
So Usagi tells Sin to let Shingo go, and then Sin taunts her. Hotaru tries to convince Sin to empathize with Usagi, since Sin also has a little brother, which Sin agrees with. Yes, brothers are important, and that's why Shingo is such a good bargaining chip.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, I know she loves her brother.
That's why I'm keeping him.
She's really smart, actually.
Yeah. It's like, well, empathy denied. Setsuna...
Like as much of like anime bullshit that this game is, I gotta say, I think the Despacito soldiers are the best villains in any of the games we've played so far. Like,
they're really good.
Like Volcog is just like, oh, like I'm going to go and try and take over the I can't even remember what the goop was called. He's like, I'm going to control the goop because I'm awesome. Rune, that's what it was. He's like, I'm going to control the rune. Oh, wait, no, I failed because my ego. And
now I have become the rune.
And fucking Haircut was the same way. He's like, no, I'm going to control Nyx. Oh, crap, I started the apocalypse. I should have read my actual notes.
But the Despacito Senshi actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, they're like, look, all we got to do is we got to take one of the rainbow crystals, and we just got to, like, take her little brother, and everything will be great. And it's like, well, can't argue with that logic.
I also do like how they are explicitly motivated by revenge, specifically against Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
They're not trying to take over the world. I mean, they're trying to do broader things, but no, they're here to fuck up Sailor Moon's life in any way they can because they don't like her, and that is the majority of their motivation, and I think that that's great.
Yeah, it's very human.
Yeah.
So Setsuna asks why they want the silver crystal, and Sin says that it would destroy the destiny they want. That, like, the silver crystal would destroy that destiny. So Setsuna asks what that is, and then Sin monologues about having a world where the silver crystal doesn't exist, which would mean there'd be no fighting over it.
Which is, like, smart, because this whole time she's like, it's the problem. It does everything. And we've been like, well, no, that's just people fighting over it. And she goes like, yeah, I know. I don't want people to fight over it. Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying it's evil and Sailor Moon is evil, but, like, you can't deny that the Black Moon killed my mom and dad. And I'm like, this is, like, really good writing for this crappy game.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually a slightly better interpretation than I had. I had a different interpretation, but I think it's also interesting. But I think yours is probably more correct. I think it's more like, it's not evil. Yeah, well, if it's not evil, how come all the bad guys want it?
Yeah. Also true.
Also true.
Yeah, in my notes, I have it that Hotaru, well, actually is her.
Yeah.
And says a silver crystal will save the Earth. To which Sin responds that the Black Moon Clan refused the purification caused by the Silver Crystal, which made them evil. And the Dark Kingdom, which is what Barrel's group was called, sought the crystal for their own. So clearly, like, the Silver Crystal is causing these problems. And I mean, again, that's like the crux of all the conflict in Sailor Moon is the Silver Crystal is causing conflict. No, the Silver Crystal is good and helps everyone. But everybody wants the Silver Crystal because they're evil. Well, yeah, that's because they're evil. It's not the Silver Crystal's fault. and it's like that fighting back and forth. So Sin,
I think that we need to enact stricter silver crystal control laws. Is all
I'm sure we'll get those 1,000 years in the future. So Sin takes Shingo away, and then we fight Kyubey. Thankfully, I had the power of Pluto on my side, and time stop chaining is super OP. So we pretty much wiped the floor with him.
Yeah.
I was worried about this boss because there's no way to level up or grind in between the beginning of the chapter and here. Mm-hmm. And they changed me to some characters that I hadn't used before. So I was just like,
shit.
I hope I can do this. But luckily, Cubase was not very difficult. And yeah, and like you said about Pluto. So I was like, oh, but I was like edge of my seat, right? Because I was like, theoretically, this could be like the end of the game for me because I can't level up. So right. I hope I can beat this battle.
So what this battle actually is pitifully easy with a crapload of experience points, and they give you these specific characters because they've either been kidnapped or knocked out or you haven't had them very long, and so this is a catch-up mechanic for Pluto and these guys. That's why it's such a weird group, because like plot-wise, every other time they split up, it's been like, okay, well, the inner Senshi you're going to do this, and the outer Senshi you're going to do this. Everything will be fine. This one's just like, take these 4, not even 5, just take these 4 people, I guess.
Yeah, and Chibi Moon doesn't even enter the fight because she's passed out. So you've got Saturn, Pluto, and Moon, and like if you didn't spend time grinding up Saturn and Pluto like I did, then they're going to be really low level, and it is a good way to catch them up some. Yeah,
specifically Sailor Moon, because she is the first time she's been missing from the party since chapter 2 was half of last chapter. So this is her catch back up and be the leader of the party again fight. Yeah, which is awesome, but you don't know that until you beat it.
Right. The game is grindy, but at least it is in some ways forgiving.
Yeah.
In some ways.
There were a few times where I thought it was going to fuck me over, and then it didn't, and I was like, okay, thank you.
We'll get to the part where it fucks you over.
Yep.
So after the fight, Usagi's mom says that Haruka and Michiru have come over. Hotaru lets them into Shingo's room and explains that he was captured. Haruka and Michiru then explain that their destinies were changed so that Haruka wasn't on the race team, and Michiru's violin disappeared. Thankfully, she doesn't have her manga powers, so this doesn't really matter to us. And apparently someone else got her part in the musical. But look, that sort of thing is really devastating to teenage girls, okay? Yeah.
I love this part, because at this part, the bad guys are just like, they finally realized, we can't affect them directly. Let's just do every single little thing we can, even if it's just the tiniest shit possible, to not even ruin their lives, just like annoy them and make them sad.
Yeah.
So it's just like everything is collapsing around them. Your stupid violin, the stupid musical. Like I really, and like the thing is like that's petty, but that's the thing. These bad guys are just petty, and they want to make them sad, and it's really good.
I will say. Go ahead.
So Sailor Mars walks in, and she's like, so I was walking, and I walked through something that was slightly sticky, and I can't get it off my shoes, so my foot just sticks a little bit to the ground the whole time I'm walking, and I can't stand it.
Exactly.
Well, she's walking, and a really catchy song is playing, but a bad catchy song is playing out of someone's boombox, and now she's like, I've got it stuck in my head all
day. Making my way downtown, walking fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that's stuck in your head all fucking day. God damn it.
That's actually why the music loops in this game. This is just stuck in their head because of the Despacito soldiers.
I will say, Michiru's violin missing is a pretty big deal because she has a fucking Stradivarius.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that's a really good, expensive violin, and that kind of sucks. But anyway, Luna tells everyone to go back to the Hikawa Shrine, and Usagi apologizes for being fucking useless. Setsuna tells her it's okay, because what else are you going to tell her? If you tell her anything else, she's going to cry. And they're used to it by now. So Usagi says she'll carry Chibiusa back to the shrine. We show up back there and everyone's transformed. Jupiter says that going after Shingo might be a trap, but Usagi says that even if it is, Shingo is her brother and she has to save him, which is...
classic Usagi.
Yeah, and good big sistering.
Have we gotten to the scene yet where we talk about how she's a shitty big sister? Did we skip that, or is it coming later?
I think it's coming later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then we can wait till later to talk about it.
Mercury says it's dangerous to go alone. Take this. I mean, it's too dangerous without knowing the enemy's true nature. But Mamoru says they shouldn't hesitate, and Usagi insists that they should go get Shingo back. So then Pluto takes us to the time-space doorway, and we run into Fiore from the Sailor Moon R movie.
Yep.
Which is some guy.
It's some guy, yeah.
For me.
Yeah, exactly.
They managed to make the canon for this game make no sense for any fan of any particular canon of Sailor Moon.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're like, all right, so here's Coconut Cyclone from the manga, and then here's Fiore from the movie universe, and then, okay, here's this from Sailor Moon, and then here's this from that, and here's this from that.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah. They just pulled from every source imaginable.
So is it not? So are the movies not canonically consistent with one of the shows?
The only canonical movie, as far as the manga goes, is the Sailor Moon S movie, because there was actually a manga written for that.
Yeah.
See, I thought it was like, because I'm coming from like in Dragon Ball Z world, right? There's a bunch of movies, and the movies all just kind of happen in addition to whatever happens in the show.
And that's,
it's like, yeah, this also happened.
For the anime canon, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't step on the anime's toes, but like they never mention it ever again, and so it's
Gotcha.
it kind of doesn't exist.
Like, remember the time we fought Fiore? No.
Yeah. It's not like in Dragon Ball Z with the Garlic Jr. saga. They're like, oh, remember when this happened in the movie? And everyone watching was like, no, we didn't watch it, but I guess I'll go do that.
But sure, we'll take your word for it. Technically, the Sailor Moon R movie could exist in canon because Fiore looks like Ailyn Ann from the from the mid-season thing that they did with the Makaiju arc. It's really weird.
But then also he's a threat from beyond the stars, and the Outer Senshi don't show up to stop it. So it's like
cool.
Yeah, you guys were a little slow on the uptake there. Jeez.
Yeah, like part of their thing, because spoilers for this movie is he has this giant like space flower that's going to go like pollinate the earth, and they stop that, and so he's just like, well, I'm just going to crash it into the earth because it's a giant meteor anyways, and so the earth is about to be destroyed, and the Outer Senshi are getting coffee or something.
Yeah, they haven't, like, as far as we know, they haven't been awoken at that point in the timeline, but like,
yeah,
I don't fucking know.
They're
not
no time
woke.
Like the present.
Yeah, exactly. They could have, but they didn't. And that's part of why, like, this would not work in the manga canon, because they would definitely be there.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to note about this is that the other big bad from a movie that shows up in this game is Snow Princess Kaguya.
Mm-hmm.
She is she's a random fucking NPC.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You just run into like 8 million of her.
Yep.
And it's really weird. Whereas there's only one Fiore. So whatever. I guess.
But what Fiore is, 'cause in the movie, he's like Mamoru's childhood best friend, and he comes back and is really jealous of Usagi, and that starts the whole movie. But so this is the we really don't want you to have a special move where you summon Tuxedo Mask, so we're going to keep him busy for the rest of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So Fiore expresses gratitude to Apsu for giving him another chance at totally banging Mamoru, which I am all for. I'm just saying. Fiore's hot. And and like that's the whole thing in the Sailor Moon R movie too, is that they talk about like Fiore being in love with Mamoru.
In the new Viz dub, they do it without homophobia, but in the original, it's kind of Usagi's just like, that's gross, y'all are boys, but this one she's just like jealous instead of grossed out, and it's beautiful.
It was a different time, like when Grandma says racist shit at the dinner table. But yeah, so Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Moon try to explain that Fiore is being deceived, but he isn't convinced because Apsu was able to resurrect him, so she could definitely change destiny so that he and Mamoru could bang. Oh, and I guess something about Ksanian flowers. Mamoru distracts Fiore with a fight so that the Sailor Senshi can go through the door. And then we get to Crystal Tokyo, where a cool wibbly-wobbly SNES effect is being used on the Crystal Palace.
It's great. I'm all about them wibbly wobblies.
I love the things that the Super NES could do to try and make it special. Like, they couldn't do fade outs, so you get the weird blocky thing when, like, in a normal game it would fade out and go to a flashback, but in the Super NES it's like each 4 pixels just get turned into 1 pixel type thing. It looks like on Cops. You get the Cops effect for the whole screen instead of a fade out. And it's just like the Super NES was trying, okay?
I don't like a lot of the Super NES's aesthetic, but those special effects that they put like actual like special chips for each thing, like obviously Mode 7 is one example, but also other things are real sweet.
Yeah.
SNES was my first game console, so it's always going to have like the top spot in my heart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great console. Like looking back at it, like the top 100 games on it are some of the top 100 games of all time. But if you start at the bottom and go bottom up 100 games, the Super NES was really bad, really easy to be really bad with. And a lot of the like random games where we just pick it off of a list and we're like, oh, let's check this one out. They're really bad.
Oh yeah, but there's definitely.
I also mostly grew up with SNES. I've actually fallen more out of love with it as I've gotten older. But maybe it's just because I've played these games so many times that they don't have that magic anymore, right? But there's also some I've discovered that I really like Sega, obviously. So it's like I'm doing that old 90s console wars thing at age 26 in 2018, basically. Where but not that they need to be endlessly compared, of course. They're their own things that don't need to be compared to the other all the time. But anyway, SNES got real cool special effects.
Here's some great terrible SNES games I've played: The Lion King, The Wizard of Oz.
Okay, Lion King.
You are so brave saying Lion King blows. You're right, but like no one admits it. You are braver than any troop.
Thank you. I'll accept my award graciously.
Most of those Disney games actually blow.
Yeah, they're terrible.
People love them, but they're wrong.
I mean,
it's just nostalgia and Disney fandom.
I'm not gonna lie. I love the Lion King game, but that volcano level is some fucking bullshit.
I one time had I had to wash my mouth out with soap because I was doing the Hakuna Matata level where you have to do those jumps over and over again where you're hanging off or whatever.
Waterfall, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was doing that, and I got to the second to last one, and I fell, and my little 8-year-old self was like, fucking shit.
My god.
My mom was
That's
right
hilarious.
there and was right there next to me and made me wash my mouth out. So
I didn't even dream of saying the word fart when I was that age. So
Eli, what was your first curse word also because of a video game?
My first curse, I think I was 12 and I was at a Unitarian Universalist youth convention.
Nice.
Because like they definitely like they encouraged us to express ourselves however we want. And so when you're 12 years old and you're getting told express yourselves however you want, that means cursing up a storm.
That means I get to say curse words.
Yeah, no words are forbidden. So we're gonna racist words are forbidden.
Yeah, I was like, oh boy, I can only imagine what some people said.
We were Unitarian Universalists. I mean, we weren't even racism was like the farthest thing from any of our 12-year-old minds. Because Unitarian Universalists are mostly good people. I say mostly because there's always some shitty people everywhere. But anyway,
obviously.
We're raised not to be racist or homophobic or transphobic and shit like that. But we said fuck like crazy.
My first curse words was when I played Dragon Quest 1 for the first time. When you have 3 random battles in 3 steps, and then you're thinking, surely the next step will not give me random battle. Probability does not work that way.
Nope.
And then you take another single step and you get a random battle. Young 14-year-old Michael goes, shit! And then I didn't immediately get struck by lightning, and I was like, oh, I guess I can just say that.
Yeah. Sorry, back to Sailor Moon again.
Yeah.
We get to Crystal Tokyo. Uranus says that it must be patch day for Destiny. And Mercury explains it's because the Despacito Senshi got a rainbow crystal and it's causing everything to go all wibbly wobbly.
Which makes me so happy that like we could have stopped all of this from happening, but instead we went and watched all of our friends die back in time instead of stopping them from getting the rainbow crystal.
Yeah.
So we got to the front, we're like, oh, hey, I guess their plan worked. We probably should have stopped them a little.
BRB doing character development.
So Sailor Moon sees a vision of Shingo, and the Despacito Senshi tell her to come to the Dark Castle if they want him back. Uranus tells them that capturing someone's little brother is just a cheap tactic for making weak Senshi strong, and they should fight fair.
One.
Yeah, I had to fit a Steven Universe reference in there somewhere. I've gone, I think, this entire playthrough, and this is the first chance I've really found.
No, last episode, because I edited it last night, so I know you fit like quite a few in last episode.
Oh, did I? Yeah. I couldn't remember. I never listened to our podcast. Who are you guys? So
I just sell the stuff. I don't use it.
Yeah, I know. You guys think I want to hear my own voice? I know my voice sucks. Of
I
anyone.
love your voice.
Aw, thank you.
About my voice, not about your voice.
Yeah. It's my voice, I will say, a million times better now that I've transitioned. I fucking loathed how I sounded before my transition.
Yeah. I think I've told this to you. It might have even been on the podcast before. But my favorite thing about your voice post transition is now, like, it is a straight up 100% male voice. Like, stupid assholes on the phone, not with standing, but like you'll go and be like, you'll do a voice for Sailor Moon, and instead of it being like a female voice, it now is a man's voice pretending to be female, and I'm just like, that's how thoroughly male you are now, is that you can't even pretend to be a female
realistically
anymore.
do a female voice anymore.
I sound like Sailor Moon, all right? I definitely do.
I love it. It's so good.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really proud of my shitty girl voices now, honestly.
Yeah.
So the Despacito Senshi tell us that we can either save Neo Queen Serenity, who is Usagi in the future, if you don't know Sailor Moon, or we can save Shingo. And there's totally no way we could do both, because it's not like we could all split up into 2 teams of 5 or anything.
Nope.
And I love that, like, in just a little bit, it's like, so we didn't foresee this, but they split up, and Opsu's just like, God damn it, oh well.
Yeah.
we were bested.
Yeah, I think she literally says, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. I could not care less about this bullshit. So the Despacito, Nergal calls out Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus specifically, and tells them to come to the Dark Castle, so we know who the correct Senshi are to take story-wise.
Don't do it. It's a trap. It is the biggest
Unless you're me and
trap.
you immediately forget.
Yeah, exactly. The rest of the Senshi, but those 4 disappear, and they call out the Despacito Senshi, who then taunt the sailors and tell them that they were abandoned. Mercury, being the intelligent one that she is, tells them they're just using an illusion because they have the power of friendship on their side.
Yeah.
This is a really cool scene. It's like they each get tempted with, like, here's what Destiny. Oh no, sorry, I was getting 2 different cutscenes mixed up. Different cutscene coming up. Sorry, let's go.
Well, yeah, they all have visions of their fates being changed. Yeah. Mercury again is a doctor, and both of her parents show up to have dinner with her, which is cool because canonically her parents are divorced. So this is kind of a bit of a surprise for anyone who's into Sailor Moon. Rei sees visions of being Mamoru's side hoe. Makoto sees that nagging douche nozzle again and totally falls for his crap. And Minako sees visions of her getting brave enough to give her crush a love letter and then runs off without getting an answer. But apparently that was all that her dream was about, and I was reading too much into it earlier.
So, it's good to have realistic goals. Is all I'm saying.
So her original dream was definitely, I don't have to be Sailor V anymore. This second one, they were like, well, we couldn't really continue that bit, so we're just going to follow up on the love letter thing.
Yeah.
So one thing, because my screenshot's finally loaded, so I can contribute now. So one of the lines from these that I loved was for Jupiter's, when she's talking to that negging asshole. He goes, "Even though you're so huge, you're very good at food."
Yeah,
which is great.
Why, yes, I am good at food. So the the Despacito Senshi ask if they really want to change those destinies, and the sailors finally realize that those destinies actually suck, and they really do want to be Sailor Senshi because of Sailor Moon and friendship.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. This part, like, as much as we were like negging on it or whatever, it actually is the like. This is the pop song scene from the anime that they tried to do last episode, where they were just talking about, like, no, we all love Sailor Moon, so we're not just going to let her fucking die. That's what they did last time. This time they were like, no, like, look, this is what you trapped us in our stuff at the beginning, but now we've grown and we've learned this sort of stuff. And this was actually really good. But this is also the scene, speaking of pop song, that I wish they would have done a pop song, because instead it fades to this black and you have the music from the beginning, the beginning thing. That's the babysitted kid again. So the intro, it does that on the black screen, and so it fades to that, and then it fades to their dream music, which has different music, and then it comes back and starts the creepy music over again, and then goes back to the next ones, and it starts their music over again. And I'm just like, give me one track to play for this whole scene. The fact that it changes like literally 2 seconds, like I don't even think you get the whole like first note of the creepy music before it goes into the next thing, and it's just like, just stop. Just don't do it.
It's like you realize that just because you cut to a different scene doesn't mean you have to cut the music, right?
Well, and like they did a SNES version of Moonlight Densetsu, which is the original Sailor Moon theme song, or the beginning of the game once you've hit the start button and you're on like the main screen. They could have easily done a SNES version of like Moon Revenge from the Sailor Moon R movie. Which would have been great. It would have been a great throwback. It would have fit the scene because, like, they go in order, and they're always in that order of Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, because that's how they showed up in the manga and anime. And it would have fit perfectly with them singing their parts in their, and they wouldn't have had to have voices, but they could have played the melody. And it would have been really nice fan service. But they didn't do that.
And like, it's not a like tech thing, because they use like Moonlight Densetsu for this exact like type thing for the final boss rush. Like that comes in and it does it there, but here they didn't, and they just go back and forth between all the things, and it's just like it's annoying. And especially because I'm just going to come out and say it. The song from the opening intro is the most grating, annoying song I've heard on the Super NES, and the fact that
it's not a good sound,
and the fact that I get that sound over and over again for like 2 seconds each time I mash through the text is so bad. Yeah.
I've actually grown to like it a bit. Like, the sound is still grating, but I do like the chord progression and just the general, like, the sort of arpeggiating arrangements and stuff. I like the mood of it a lot, so now that I've gotten used to the fact that it sounds like ass, I can appreciate it when it's used tastefully in certain scenes. But, I mean, that still doesn't change the fact that it sounds like ass.
If they didn't use that horrible high-pitched flute sound on so many of the songs, like, it would have been way better. But I think they were just trying too much to emulate the sound of the anime. I don't know. But it was too much high pitch. Anyway, so everything goes back to normal at that point, and Sailor Moon finds them all collapsed on the ground. They explain they were attacked, but it didn't work on them because friendship!
Yay, friendship.
The rest of the Senshi show up, and they all debate whether saving Shingo or the Queen is more important. But then they remember that they can totally split up into 2 groups of 5 and therefore save both. So everyone says who they'd rather go with, but you're totally able to say fuck that and take whoever you want. Story-wise,
but it's a trick. Don't listen to it.
Right? Yeah. Story-wise, you don't want to listen to what they tell you, because you'll end up with the shittiest team ever, which is the Inner Senshi.
Yeah.
The correct
a pro tip: just put fucking Pluto with fucking Moon. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Pluto with everyone,
I did.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't just do that. I should have. it was a dumb move on my part to go with the actual correct story choice, which is Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus, and then the outer Senshi with Chibi Moon.
I will say that having to grind everybody up, we slept on Venus in a way that was inappropriate, and I want to formally apologize for her. When you get her to Mars's level, she is as strong as Mars, but like faster. So like she doesn't have that pitiful defense that I saw Eli have to deal with when I was watching his Let's Play yesterday.
Oh God,
and
it was
I definitely
so
had to deal
miserable.
with. And
Yeah.
and so Venus is more likely to survive a hit than Mars is, and she is just as strong and a little bit faster, and she should have been our go-to this whole time, but
So-
all of us
100%
picked
agreed.
Mars.
I had Venus in my chibi party, unfortunately, so it took me even longer to realize how great she was. But yeah, she owns hard and is definitely better than Mars, who is just a liability.
Yeah.
So yeah, here. If you haven't watched my Let's Play, here's what happened. So I've got my cluster set up. I've got in the center, I've got Sailor Mars. In the two front positions, I've got Moon and Jupiter, and in the two back positions, I've got Mercury and Venus. Because, like, you know, Mercury's pretty weak. She's not going to do good damage anyway. I'm just going to use her for buffs and things. And then Venus, like, she's probably not got great defense. You know, she'll still do okay in the back, though.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as Nergal does her first attack, Mars and Venus bite the fucking dust. Jupiter, I think, sustained the first hit, but then Marduk's hit afterwards totally owned her. And I was trying the fight with only Moon and Mercury for a while, which, okay, like, I powered up Sailor Moon to Super Sailor Moon using the Moon Chalice, and she was doing like 2,000 a hit on each of them, but it was going to take for fucking ever, and I went, all right, I've got to try this over again.
Yeah,
Wait, Sam, I think I got mixed up. Which Sailor were you saying we slept on and is great, and I was agreeing with you the whole time?
Venus.
Okay, yes, that's the one. Yes, I agree. I just want to make sure I wasn't thinking about the wrong one. Yes.
So,
Venus owns.
So yeah, we kind of skipped over this sort of dungeon, which isn't a lot happening actually.
Oh yeah.
And so we can just go ahead and skip to fighting these bosses because that's where we are. So all of the bosses wiped the floor with me except Mercury and Sailor Moon have crazy high defense.
Yeah,
and
they
so
do.
It would be like 9,000 damage to Mars, 4,000 damage to Venus, 800 damage to Jupiter, 1 damage to Moon, 2 damage to Mercury. And I'm like,
Back row is it's like if you're in victory position, I believe the back row is No. If you're in victory position, I think I looked up some stats. I think the back row is 0.3 damage. But if you're in not cluster, what's the one where there's two powerful ones? It's like a reverse. That's
victory. Arrow is the one where it's one person.
Arrow is like 0.3, I think. Victory is like 0.1.
Yeah,
damn,
it's absurd. So they already have high defense. So yeah, and of course this game's calculations are wonky and weird and like exponential. So yeah, if they're in the back row, they're just not going to get hurt.
Yeah, and so what I had to do was set up a revival chain and hope that they would do their status buffs because Mars was doing such ungodly damage, and that was with one red pupil, and then Venus had the other red pupil and was also doing ungodly damage. That I would try and revive one of them each turn so that I could get a pop shot off and do that, and that's how I made it through the first 2 entire fights. Was just like, all right, they didn't manage to kill Mars, so Mars is going to kill you, and just I think they have like 30,000 HP, and if Mars and Venus both got off, that did over 10,000. So I just had to survive 3 turns, and they would be gone. But however, that's not easy.
One thing I actually started digging into the mechanics a lot this game. One interesting thing is that if someone's dead, you cannot target them with an individual item. You can't heal someone or use a buff on them if they're dead. So at the beginning of the round, when you're queuing up your attacks, you can't say you revive them. You heal them. You buff them. No, you can't do that. But if it's an all item, it won't have an arrow in front of them, but it will actually take effect. So yeah, it's like whoever. So I'm paying attention to turn order, and I'm like, hey, you person who is fast, you revive them. Hey, you person who's definitely going to take the very last turn just to be safe, you, or maybe the next turn, you who's going to go next, but before the enemy, you buff them so they buff everybody, including them, right? So you buff everybody, and then maybe they can survive a fucking hit from the enemy. It was cool.
Yeah.
The interesting thing that we found with that is that using a toilet will also affect the dead.
What does toilet do? Because all it does is say cures, question mark, question mark,
Wait, does
question
it
mark.
revive?
Toilet, no, it does not revive.
Oh, okay.
It cures all HP and all EP
Oh my
of
god.
the entire party. It's so overpowered.
I have never messed with it because it just like cures question mark, question mark, question mark. And I'm like, well, I don't like, I just got done playing Survival Kids. Question mark means it's going to poison me and I'm going to fucking die. So
you should have just asked. No, yeah, they're the most overpowered item in the game, and
That's good.
It will fully heal the HP of a dead Senshi. It will not revive them, but
So when
then
you do revive them, they're at full instead of at 200 or whatever.
right, exactly.
Oh man, I never
which
noticed that.
I'm
Damn.
pretty sure is a bug, but I totally fucking exploited that.
Yeah, I never felt like I needed the toilets, and they're real expensive, so I mostly just use colognes and bento sets, which combined are similar.
Yeah.
Man, that's a nice little effect, though.
Yeah.
I'm mad because like if I was on like with these guys, I would not have like I would have two people doing healing, but if they got out of EP, I would have to be like, okay, well, one of you's got to heal EP, and it was like a crapshoot on if I could actually get the cologne off before they would die and stuff. And it would have been great to just have one thing.
Yeah.
But I'm like I think 99 of them because I've never once used one for the entire game.
Oh yeah.
Oh, see, I only had like 10 because I saw the price, and the thing is, I'm like, yeah, I have a shit ton of money, but I also want to buy 100 colognes, you know? So...
Yeah.
Oh well.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, so that's how I got through the first two fights, which sounds similar to how you guys did it, where y'all were just doing it. So then for Sin, how I did it is how Eli just was like, well, I'm not going to do this. Is how I was like, well, I have to do this because I don't want to go and redo all of this stuff again. It was way too hard. So Mercury, when she was fully buffed up with a fragrance, did 400 damage. Sin has 40,000 health, which if you do the math, that's 100 turns.
100 turns.
So I held down the button to to just heal each turn, or do a cologne each turn. Would have been great to know that I could have just done a toilet and held it down no matter what. And so I just was holding it down for 100 turns, and that's how I beat Sin.
Oh my god,
it works.
Because, I'm so glad I switched up my tactic because that sounds horrible.
I was going to do the revival scum again, but I was out of revival items because I just had to do it for a boss rush. So
the only thing about this game is the items that you can buy at the shops are not consistent, and you never really know what you're gonna get. So like at one shop you could buy bento sets, but like at the final shop in the game you can't buy bento sets, and you never really know. So in any battle in this game, I was like, I've only got 20 of these things and I'm blowing through them. I don't for sure know that if I'll be able to get more or not, so I should be careful with them. It was interesting. It wasn't the typical RPG hoarding where you're doing it against good sense. It's like, no, like I do not know if there's going to be a shop or whatever before the next boss. So
which like if in a game where you don't have a world map and you can't go back to shops, like almost every shop you see you won't see ever again. So
exactly. So if you do something good, you got to stock up.
It's like it's so like frustrating to do that. Like you said the last shop in the game doesn't have them, but actually there are like 5 last shops in the game, different buildings there in Crystal Tokyo.
Yeah, one of them has bento sets.
One of them has bento sets.
Ugh, that area's too big. I couldn't find that shop.
Yeah, it's not smartly laid out whatsoever.
I had to get a map to figure out where it was going.
But I was doing just fine with nigiri sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, the enemies drop bento sets. So
yeah.
We actually skipped a bunch of story talking about the boss rush.
I don't remember much story going on. That's why I did it.
Yeah, Artemis goes off with Sailor Moon. Luna stays with Chibi Moon. The cats aren't important, like, at all, so it doesn't really matter. But we cut to Apsu talking to herself about changing her own fate before the Sailor Senshi arrive, because otherwise she'll just die. If she can change her own destiny, though, maybe she could possess a silver crystal, because that's totally how fate works, apparently.
Yeah. It's like maybe I could have Usagi's soul as my own soul if I change destiny enough.
Exactly.
To where I'm Usagi.
Perhaps I could be a 14-year-old stupid girl. Sin shows up and tells Apsu that the Senshi split up because they're not stupid. Apsu says she doesn't care. Evil will always triumph over good because good is dumb. And then she tells Sin that the ceremony will be at the Tower of Time. By the way, that was a Spaceballs reference for you all.
So I knew it was referenced, but I couldn't remember what it was from. But now I remember. Now I know.
Yes, you're welcome. That's your Spaceballs.
The one good joke from Spaceballs. No, 1 out of 2.
I love Spaceballs.
It doesn't hold up. Just saying.
I know it doesn't, but I still love it.
It has like 5 really good parts.
So anyway, the quote-unquote ceremony will be at the Tower of Time, and to make sure that Tuxedo Mask and his alien boyfriend aren't in the way.
Mm-hmm.
So we go back to the sailors, we head to the Dark Castle and begin grinding. Shingo can totally wait because these things give a hell of a lot of XP and drop fragrances.
Yeah,
they do.
I had 99 fragrances by the time I was done, and the max amount of yen, and it was great.
Nice.
And Discount Link in there sells toilettes and colognes, so of course I spent all the yen I could on getting max of everything.
Like, I'm mad that we beat the game today because, like I have so many toilettes, and it's just like, well, now, like I'm not going to go back and replay the game. I'll tell Summer for her playthrough to use them.
Yeah.
But like,
Sam, I did some really interesting reading about some of the weird, subtler mechanics that I might explain later, and then you'll be even more mad that you don't get to.
Oh yeah,
to play the
I'm
game
really
some more
interested
after
in
I
that.
explain some of the weird bullshit. You'll be like, oh, that's how that works.
Yeah, we can save that for the live episode. I have a couple things planned for next week. So
okay,
it'll be fun.
Awesome. So after some grinding, we enter a room where space is getting distorted. Everyone but Sailor Moon disappears, and Sin tells her that her friends abandoned her. Somehow, Usagi is smart enough to see through that. But then she sees a vision of being a housewife, which is apparently great. Sin says she'll grant Usagi that destiny if she hands over the silver crystal, but Sailor Moon says that not everybody wants that. And she mentions that the Black Moon clan was...
I really like bringing the Black Moon back into this. It was cool.
Yeah, it made the diversion of fan service that was chapter 4 important to the plot, because it was like character development, but it could have easily been anime character development where like they go through this stuff and now you know that they're a better person, but they're still going to just ask for food the next episode or whatever. But this one, she like specifically called back to it. It was like, yeah, that's why we didn't stop you in the past, is because I had to deal with this, and because of that, I now can stop you right now.
Okay. We head into the room with Shingo. Sin shows up and says she'd hoped to resolve this by talking it over, and then tells Sailor Moon to come to the back room to fight. So we head into the room with Shingo, and the Despacito Senshi show up to taunt us yet again, because that's what they do. Everyone addresses their own counterparts, because that's how these things work. If you have a doppelganger, that's the only one you can talk to. And then we fight! And we talked about this.
And it's a goddamn nightmare.
Yeah.
But it's pretty sick. The bad guys, all the friggin' bad guys use confusion.
Yeah.
They need to stop, and there's no way to like defend against that. You can't cast a spell that makes you more
just with the red
susceptible.
ribbon, which I gave to Sailor Moon because she was always my she was like my tank that would survive everything and heal everybody. So I didn't want her to be messed up, but that's the only
good news
protection.
It's got a pretty low hit percent anyway.
Yeah.
But still, like most of the time it hits nobody. But what it would always do, if it was going to hit one person, it would always hit the one person who was doing something important that round,
of course.
right?
Yeah, totally. So we're first up against Nurgle and Marduk. Both of them hit like trucks. And then after we defeat them, we go with Ishtar and Nabu. They're a bit easier as far as incoming damage goes, but they still have a ton of health, so take a while to.
And I was still
through.
dying a lot.
Yeah.
So.
And then of course we have Sin, who we talked about taking 100 mercury hits. It's like death by 1,000 needles.
Like you mentioned getting through Tartarus via War of Attrition, and this was me finally having my own War of Attrition. I was just like, look, this is what we're going to do today. Thank God you don't have any healing moves. Thank God Aegis can't heal you for me.
Yeah. It was death by 1,000 bubbles.
Yeah, if I was in Sam's position, I probably would have done the same. But luckily, the first boss annihilated me so much that I had to do a bunch of grinding, so that by the time I was able to beat the first boss at all, then Sin wasn't too much trouble.
Okay.
So like fighting one boss and deciding to yourself, you know what, attrition is going to take too long. It would literally take less time to reset my game, grind, and try again than to do attrition. That's an easy decision to make if it's on the first boss.
Yeah.
On the third boss, you don't want to make that decision.
No.
No.
Yeah.
So after we defeat them, the Despacito Senshi argue about whether or not they can actually defeat us. Artemis tells Sailor Moon that she might be able to use the silver crystal to turn them back into normal humans, and it works. Except for Sin. Artemis says she cares too much about Anshar's future, but I think he's just making excuses for her. Everybody manages...
She's just a good sister.
Yeah. Everybody manages to get Shingo safe, and then we cut to Chibi Moon's side of the story, which is to save her mom.
Real quick, before we move on to that, just because I see it in my things, and we didn't mention it back when it first happened, but we mentioned how the awesome transformation sequences that Sailor Moon is known for are in this game with like a flash of light and turning around, but the other thing they're known for, which is the ridiculous super posy anime Kamen Rider monologues before they fight.
I was trying not to mention
They gave us those sprites for, at least for Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
Everyone else doesn't have it, but Sailor Moon still does all the poses, and it ends with, "In the name of the moon, I'll punish you," with that stupid finger guns crossy thing that she does, and it's amazing that they gave it to us in the sprite.
It's real cool. It's real cool.
Yeah, it's been there the whole time. We've just not mentioned to say it.
It's not important. I'm trying to gloss over the really corny parts of the game, which admittedly is a lot of the game.
No, but that's the best part of this game.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I'm here for all the corn.
Yeah.
So we head north with Chibi Moon, and Anshar tells her not to come closer because they'd have to fight. So then it's grinding time, because Mom will totally be okay while we kill some monsters to level up.
Yeah. And this was the one where I had Pluto was a high level, and Saturn was a high level, and Chibi was a high level. Not that helped, but and everyone else was really, really bad. So I had a lot of grinding to do, like copious amounts of grinding. Turns out didn't need it, but I still.
One thing that's interesting here is the difficulty curve, or the level curve, the way it is. It's actually really steep. I mean, I know it is in most RPGs, but I'm really realizing here, because my highest level character here was probably 39, and I wanted to get them up to 45. And here's the thing. The amount of grinding it took to get them from 39 to 45 was basically the amount of time it took to get other people from 25 to 45.
Yeah.
It wasn't more grinding. By the time the person got from 39 to 40, the person at 25 was at 37.
Yeah, they were giving so much XP.
So luckily the curve is exponential enough that it probably took 10 minutes of grinding for everyone to be on the same level, and then I just had to get them all up higher.
At this point in the game, things are giving 10,000 plus XP.
Yeah, I think for my level 10 characters took, I think it was exactly 10 more battles to get that last level. That when everyone hit 45, they were still at 44. So I did 10 more battles, and then everyone was at 45.
Yeah.
So
in my case,
here my party was Pluto, who just does time stops. Doesn't matter if she's strong or not. And then, but this is where I got to see Venus shine and realize how amazing Venus is.
Yeah.
In my case, I had forgotten to switch my formation, as I did, like, all the time. And those monsters are tough when Neptune is at the beginning of the arrow formation and Saturn and Uranus are in the back.
They're tough.
Yep.
But I ended up grinding up to past level 80. Because,
Hilarious.
well, I was using...
A little bit of overkill.
Yeah, a little bit. I was using the fast forward feature. Well, and... I ground up to like 75-ish with the inner Senshi because I was like, well, these guys are really hard. Maybe I can get the inner Senshi to a point where their defense is high enough, even if I've got Mars in the center position. No. That didn't work. So I was like, well, I'm going to like super overkill it. And with the fast forward feature on the emulator I'm using, it only took about 15 minutes to get the outer Senshi up to 80 or so. But yeah, they ended up not needing that at all.
Nope.
But they turned into my dream team, so it was fine.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about Crystal Tokyo. If you know the Sailor Moon anime, there are 5 crystal points. If you don't know the anime, you're pretty much like, where the fuck do I go? What do I do? And so you just... And even knowing the anime, I was like, all right, I guess I'm wandering around for a while. And then eventually you find out that there are these... areas where there's just like a big honking crystal in 5 different areas of Crystal Tokyo that takes you a while to find because they're not really like apparent. But at each one of those crystal points, one of the Death Busters, who are Udiel, Mehmet,
Hot,
yes, I agree. Udiel, Mehmet, Vilyui, Telulu, and 2 in the case of Cyprin and Patilal. And they show up to fight us and talk about how they thought their fates were being changed.
Yeah. So this part was like a little frustrating to me because the encounter rate here is like ridiculous.
It's super high,
and it's not as bad as like the next dungeon we go into. Like I literally was about to throw my controller in a little bit, but So this one, I was like walking around, constantly getting into fights, which is fine because I was going to be grinding, but I just wanted to know where I was supposed to go, so I didn't go there accidentally. And so I wandered my way into the shop, one of the shops, and every single person in there was like, "Have you checked out the crystal points? I'm pretty certain the crystal points are the most important part of the city. You should go and find the 5 crystal points that are spread out around the perimeter of this map."
You're speaking to Mr. doesn't talk to NPCs in JRPGs because they tell you things like, "I like potatoes," and that's it. So of course I didn't talk to these NPCs.
As you'll find out, most of the games that we'll be playing, because we have taste. I can't speak for like Septerracore when we play that one because who the fuck knows what happened.
I've never even heard of that.
That's a like half Final Fantasy, half Fallout made by Square Enix for 1997 for the PC. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, it's obscure as hell. I'm hoping we get to play it next year. But like I can't say if those will have it, but like in Dragon Quest, if you don't talk to NPCs, you don't get to play the game.
You're fucking lost. Yeah.
Like in NPCs.
Well, even if you're not lost, if you're playing a later Dragon Quest game, you don't have to talk to them, but you're missing the point of the game. You know,
wasted time.
Like what are you even playing the game for?
Yeah, and so.
So it's not wasted time, it's playing the game.
And so
that's what you're there for.
Like with Rogue Galaxy, Persona didn't let you not talk to him at the beginning of every day. You talked to the NPCs, but Rogue Galaxy, there was a point where I was like, okay, enough of the plot is in the things, and there's a waypoint, so I don't need to know where to go. But like in Xenogears, like. Spoilers for the first area of Xenogears, you will have no idea what to do unless you talk to every NPC that you see.
All right, fair enough.
Like that's like I'm trying to save you from being frustrated and lost for the next couple of games that we play, because that's kind of kind of what these old games did. Is like the I like rocks is a Pokemon thing more than like the more traditional like beat people up RPGs. So
yeah, fair enough.
This will be your last, hopefully, time, and you'll be lit.
We'll make a real. We'll make a JRPG trash of you yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the first 6 Final Fantasies. Well, I like some of the first 6 Final Fantasies.
That's the thing. Final Fantasy games don't have good NPC
That's
writing.
true.
So why would you talk to them? Until 8, actually 7 as well. 7 they start getting good, and 8 they're
and
real
I've
good.
I've never played past
anyway,
that. So except for 14, and even in 14, the NPCs have nothing useful to say. So anyway, after fighting the Deathbusters, we can finally head into the Crystal Palace.
Yes.
There is a guy here, another discount Link who's pink. He says he'll give you something if you got all the puzzle pieces. We were missing one piece, so I have no idea what that is.
One piece.
It's a really long anime that hasn't had any hiatuses for the past 17 years that it's been on television.
Oh, none. I'm sure. Anyway, I have no idea what he would give us. I'm planning to cheat my way to that point at some time to just to see.
Do you want me to tell you?
What is it?
So I was using a guide to help me out. He gives you 10 incredible accessories. They give you bitchin' defense.
Really?
They also, I think, raise other stats. I think they might raise defense, speed, and attack, but mostly they raise your defense. And all the guys were like, yeah, unless you want to spend a shit ton of time grinding like Eli did, you need to equip these on all of your characters so that they don't die immediately by the final boss. And I didn't have them either, but as I'll explain a little bit later, I didn't actually get to complete the game, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. So in your mind, you finished it with 999 level for everybody too.
Yeah.
Because you watched Eli do it.
So we head toward the throne room, and Anshar tells us over and over not to come closer because he doesn't want to fight. And he's sad because he really likes Chibi Moon, and it sucks that they can't be together because she's a princess and he's not a prince. Because that's how everything works ever. So we meet up with him finally, and Apsu shows up. Anshar insists that he won't fight Chibi Moon and tells him, and she tells him to shut the fuck up and accept her power.
Yep.
And then we fight! And
he dies in
yeah, I was going to say, he's a little kid, so he's honestly pretty easy to kill. It also helps that we have Pluto for that sweet time stop chain.
Yep. Although I don't even know how necessary it even is, honestly, for this battle. Obviously, I still use it, but yeah, he's so
I didn't get a chance.
So what I think this half of the chapter was supposed to be was like they figured with Sailor Moon, because every time so far that the party is split up, you haven't played the second party. You've just played the one with Sailor Moon. So they expected you to put all your shitty characters in this one.
Oh, yeah.
So that all the bosses are easier, all the mobs give heckin' experience, and then when you get to Anshar, like I said, Sin had 40,000, Anshar has 25. So even as like a end chapter boss, he's pitiful.
Yeah.
So I think it's all designed to like make you not suddenly have to grind all the way from level 1 with like shitty experience or whatever. So.
Yeah, which is helpful.
I was reading a guide. Apparently, if you don't have Pluto, it actually is not piddly, because remember the way the defense works in this game is so exponential. Like it's like if you're at level 41, it's piddly easy, but if you're at level 40, it'll wreck you. You know, so you still have to be at some level if you don't have Pluto. But I did have Pluto, so
yeah, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Everything's okay. We can just
also,
have Pluto.
I was still at like 46 or 48 anyway, because I got into a really nice grinding groove. So
cool. So after the fight, Anshar immediately asks if Chibi Moon's okay, which is great. Like, he cares about her more than himself, and he says he's always admired her, but because he's not royalty, they couldn't be together. He also explained that he tried talking to her before, but those desires only caused Apsu to find him. And then he explains that Apsu is weak to the silver crystal, and he dies. However, Pluto explains that Chibi Moon should be able to resurrect him with her silver crystal, which she does. Yay!
I love how everyone seems to keep forgetting about the silver crystal, even though it's the most important thing in the whole plot. It's like, that guy's weak to the one thing.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh no, someone died. Hey, you could do that one thing that you always do to revive people. Did you forget about that?
It's really...
Did you forget to use a silver crystal to beat the bad guy? Idiot.
Yeah, it's really Usagi and Chibiusa who are forgetting their own silver crystals. Everybody else remembers. They remember the Alamo. So, after the fight, so then all of them head back...
Is it right here that Anshar gives her the pendant back that's from the second?
Not yet.
Okay, because like that whole thing is in an optional demo at the very beginning of the game. So you don't it's when it happened. I was like, oh yeah, like you could have easily missed this.
Which I'd forgotten about.
I'm like this game's choice to put vital plot information in the opening of the game and then the demo screen is bizarre. It
is really weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, putting something in the first opening video is whatever, because that's like, you should know to watch that if you're playing a game. But the fact that there's two of them.
Yeah.
And the second one has important stuff too. That's hilarious.
So all of them head back to the time-space doorway, and Chibi Moon explains that Apsu is at the Tower of Time trying to change fate. So again, we split up into teams of 5. I ended up taking the Outer Senshi with Sailor Moon because they're way better than the Inner Senshi. Saturn actually says the ones with the power to defeat Apsu should head with Sailor Moon, meaning take only the strongest.
It's cool how you split parties here, but you don't actually use the second party.
Yeah. Well,
it's like a little fake
we'll get to that. We will get to that.
You kind of do.
So they finally realize that Tuxedo Mask and Fiore aren't fighting in front of the door anymore, but there's a bunch of rose petals scattered around. Obviously, where there are rose petals, there are tuxedo masks.
He's the only person that's ever had a rose ever before.
Yeah. So we follow that trail.
And it's not like he was kidnapped by a person whose powers are having flowers.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a trap. It's just,
not at all.
It's just
no one else
mask.
could put roses in on purpose to trick us. Or
No,
anything.
of course not. So we head to the Tower of Time where the petals lead us, and Apsu tells us to enter if we want to save our useless boyfriend. We find Tuxedo Mask chained to a wall, and Luna says Apsu's mental energy is being used as a lock, so they can't get him down without defeating her. He reassures Sailor Moon, and then we continue through the temple, because fuck him. Apsu...
So, before we continue through the temple, this place has super high encounter rates, but for, like, level 4 monsters. So it's not even like I was able to grind from them. I just was consistently stopped, and I could not remember where the teleport step for this first room was. So I was walking everywhere, and every single step was giving me a random battle, and I couldn't find it, and I was so frustrated.
Guess it's just the same battles from last time we were here.
Yeah.
They never update the battles for previous areas that you've been to, which is kind of stupid.
A total shame.
Yeah. That was why Chibiusa was able to one-shot the mobs in Rias Village, because they were for level 6 Venus.
Yeah.
So
I do like how the world has some kind of consistency. It's not like, oh, it means you're stronger now because you're stronger. It's like, no, the bad guys are weak here. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
It's also dumb though.
Yeah.
It's not great for progression type of things.
No.
So Apsu comes in and tries to change Usagi's fate. But then we see one of the very first scenes from both the anime and manga, which is Usagi lamenting a bad grade that she got, and then Mamoru meeting her for the first time and making fun of her for said bad grade. Apsu wonders why that didn't work, and Usagi explains that fate is what people's hearts create. She says fate isn't what made her love Mamoru, although in fairness, they actually are only together because of fate in the original anime, because they have, like, zero fucking chemistry. They're much more compatible in the manga, and this is just more evidence to me that the manga is superior in most regards.
Also, by the way, I have volumes 1 through 7 missing number 4 of Sailor Moon manga in my house because of the library. Libraries are great. Everyone should go to the library.
If you need volume 4, let me know. I mean, I can bring it to work. And
I might actually take you up on that because volume 4 is on a hold with somebody else, and it might be like 3 weeks before we get it.
Shit.
So
I'll just bring it tonight. Are you working tonight?
Okay. I'm not, but I live next door, so I can go over and grab it.
Cool. And then we fight.
Yay!
Time stop chain saves the day once again, and at my level, she hit Pluto for about 3 damage, and then we were able to go through the rest of the fight without any attacks from her. She did like nothing.
This fight set up the like made me realize the like only time that I'm like nervous in the end, because I wasn't level 999999999. I was like level 45 or whatever. So the first couple of turns before a successful time stop was like, all right, I gotta interact with the mechanics. Who's going first? Who's healing what? Who's doing this? And then I got time stop off, and I'm like, okay, well, Sailor Moon, you use a cologne every turn, and because you go dead last because you're the worst fucking character. And then Pluto will use time stop every turn. It's a waste because they only like Apsu, I think, was out for 2 turns. I did notice that time stop can affect weaker monsters more. Like when I was grinding in Crystal Tokyo, those bosses were out for like 7 turns at a time. But she was doing time stop every turn because Usagi was using a cologne every turn. Everyone else was just like, here, take all of my damage, and I just held it down. Mm-hmm. But getting to that point was super like on the edge of my seat. Yeah. And I was like, this is where the game is. Unfortunately, they then gave us the cheesiest move in
this battle
JRPG
was
history.
Relatively attrition-y for me because I was doing the same thing as you basically, but I wasn't as strong, so I wasn't doing a ton of damage. And again, I know there's one more boss because I've looked at the guide, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get more of various items. So I had colognes, but I didn't have an absurd amount of colognes. So I was doing some juggling. Like, instead of using a cologne, what I would do is I would have 3 different characters who weren't doing a ton of damage, so it's fine if they don't do this. 3 different characters all use an item that gives 4 MP. That way I could get Pluto back up to 12, because I thought I should drain through all of these items before I start using my colognes, for example. And then I was doing some other things. I was getting creative, actually. I was basically like, I'm going to try and use all of my shitty items before I use any of my good ones. And I was doing all the math in my head. It's funny, I wasn't in danger of like dying, but I was trying to manage that attrition, and it was fun, actually. It was kind of cool.
What I was doing was I was having Pluto time stop, and then on her next turn she was using a cologne, so I was getting attacks with Sailor Moon as well.
Yeah, that's
what I would do whenever I wasn't doing what I just said. Yeah.
That's the way I traditionally did it, but I realized that I could just do it every turn and hold down the button and watch the boss die.
Yeah.
So I typically would do the time stop cologne time stop, but Sailor Moon was doing like 11 damage anyways. So
yeah, who cares?
So we got through that fight, and after defeating Apsu, the tower starts shaking. Pluto explains that it's just the fates that were changed to going back to normal. And we believe her because she's Sailor Pluto. She's the guardian of time. Clearly, she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
So, sorry, OneNote decided to fuck up.
So we get Tuxedo Mask and leave the tower, and it crumbles back into the spacey, timey, oceany thing that's on the moon, and so then we head back to the Crystal Palace to purify the evil comet, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And this is the part where I was like, all right, we beat the game. I had forgotten that this was a JRPG, and therefore there was always going to be a final form.
Yeah.
But and so I was like, okay, we beat the game, and then they're just like, oh, but what about the comet? And I was like, oh yeah, I remember reading that.
Thing.
Oh yeah,
like,
apparently that's a thing.
A month and a half ago.
So after that, we cut to a scene of Apsu praying for strength so that she won't die. Sin shows up and does a fusion dance with her so that Apsu will survive.
And then the fused monster looks like Apsu with a dragon body, so I guess Sin was a dragon the whole time.
I suppose.
No, Sin, you are the dragons. And then Sin was a zombie. So we cut back to the Sailor Senshi. They've all sensed evil energy and realize Apsu may still be alive, and Sin is probably with her. So we head to the basement of the Crystal Palace, because where else would we go except basements? Once there, we split into teams again. And this is actually, this is the crucial moment where you decide who goes with who, because there are 2 endings. The ending you get depends on which team wins. So, yeah. If you start with Sailor Moon, you start on a very difficult fight with Apsin. That's what I'm calling the Sin and Apsu fusion. Mm-hmm. And if Moon's team is defeated, then Chibi Moon's team then fights an easier version of her. It still beats the game technically, but you get a bad quote unquote ending. So
what was the bad ending? I almost want to reload my save and get the bad ending.
I've got screenshots of that up. I've got cool. A full I was just looking that up while we were discussing other stuff. Mm-hmm. So we will get to that.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk about our ending first.
Yeah. So I had Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto because Time Stop is too OP not to have for this fight. They show up where the Tower of Time should be, and then Opsin shows up. Apparently fusing with Sen gave Apsu some weird dragon head body, like you said. Opsin's like, yeah, I'm fugly, but at least I'm alive and powerful.
Which is like...
I really like that.
Which is like what every... like random monster in the OG anime would do. They're just like this super like gorgeous girl or whatever, and she's like, well, I have this crystal of bullshit and I'm going to use it to be evil, and then they look at themselves and they're like, oh my god, I'm hideous, but oh well, gotta kill Sailor Moon.
I mean it's kind of I think it's a strangely optimistic message from a bad guy. Like I guess it's more meant to be scary and evil, but like, yeah, I might not be attractive, but at least I'm here.
Right?
That's my motto. So it's funny, at first I was thinking, it is kind of a funny, strangely body posy kind of message. It's like, yeah, being powerful and achieving your goals, that's more important than being pretty. Then I realized, wait, it's only villains who do that. So the message is saying that being okay with being evil, or being okay with being ugly because it makes you powerful, is bad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually the message there.
So maybe not so positive.
But of course it represents a corrupt soul, obviously, which is
totally
bad. But obviously we shouldn't represent ugliness with a corrupt soul, but you know what.
Yeah. So she says she could easily raise the palace, but that'd make getting the silver crystal really difficult, and she'd rather just kill the Sailor Senshi. And then we fight.
Yay.
Her first attack completely annihilated Uranus and mine, but once I got the time stop chain going, it was heckin' easy.
Yeah. Like, just setting up the chain here was, like, super difficult. Like, lots of AoEs, lots of killing everybody. But
the good thing about in this game is not only is back row hella defense, but using the defend option. In other games, it's like half damage. In this game, it's like you're invincible.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So you have the person you don't want to die use defend until you have used the F cream on them, basically.
Yeah. And I should have done that, or once you've used time stop.
Yeah.
So here's the good ending that happens when Sailor Moon fights Apsu and wins. We defeat Apsu. Sailor Moon uses the silver crystal to destroy her and then returns Sin to normal. Sin asks why they chose to save her when they're enemies. Venus explains that they don't want to hate anyone, and Mars says that it was because of Sailor Moon.
I love this. I love the way it's written. They're just like, aren't you gonna kill me? We're not really into that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of how she says it.
Yeah, pretty much. The rest of Despacito Senshi show up to greet Sin, and they all thank her for keeping them safe and are friends. Yay, friendship. It's magic, apparently.
Yay. Sweet.
So the Sailor Senshi start to leave, but Anshar calls to Chibi Moon. Apparently, he had that pendant she lost, and he gives it back to her. This is the scene you were thinking of, Sam.
Yeah.
So she thanks him and gives him a kiss, and it's super cute. He blushes.
It's so cute.
He's got like a special sprite just for this. It's adorable. So all the Senshi, they all meet up at the time-space doorway again, and so the Senshi talk about Chibi Moon's new boyfriend because something heteronormativity. A lot of I will say a lot of Sailor Moon fans ship Chibi Moon and Saturn because Chibiusa and Hotaru have such a close relationship in Sailor Moon S and the Mugen arc in the manga. But it would be weird because Saturn's totally grown up in the future and Chibiusa is not.
So
fandoms doing ships that are actually really problematic, but they just don't care anyway. That's
I know, right? That's not a thing.
While they're talking, Venus does her thing where she like almost quotes an idiom, and then somebody has to correct her.
Yeah.
Except I don't think that the translator knew the idiom because it doesn't make sense for either person.
Not even the right idiom. Yeah, she says something like.
It's weird.
So Venus goes, well, as the old proverb goes, people who are alike eat each other. And Jupiter's like, don't you mean people who are alike attract each other? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, it's opposites
Like,
attract.
Who says that?
Nobody says people who are alike attract each other.
Yeah, like she should have gone with opposites attract and done some localization, because maybe in Japan there is a proverb that is like this, but localize instead of just translate would have been beautiful right here and make the pun work.
Venus could have said opposites attack, and
Oh, that would have been cute.
Yeah, don't you mean opposites
attack?
Yeah, exactly. So Pluto says she has to go back to the Tower of Time and leaves. And then everybody else heads back to present-day Tokyo, where they tell us the moral of the story, which is that our lives aren't predetermined and that everyone is the master of their own fate. And then Hotaru turns back into a baby, which might kind of negate that whole life not being predetermined thing.
She's like, well, back to being a baby. Bye. And they're like, bye.
Hotaru's like, I am the master of my own fate. Oh God, I'm a baby. So...
And then my favorite ending in anime history happens, where Ami's like, all right, that was fun. Don't forget, exams are tomorrow. Hope you don't fail, Usagi.
Yeah.
Hope you found time to study while we were in the fucking past.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 100% just like, well, back to normal.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was fun.
Haruka and Michiru say they'll take care of Hotaru. Everybody else says goodbye in their own ways. Chibiusa and Usagi head inside for dinner, and that's it. Like, to anyone who is playing this as an RPG and is not a Sailor Moon fan, this ending is going to seem really anticlimactic. But for those of us who are Sailor Moon fans, it's very clear that it was taking inspiration from the original anime and just trying to show a normal, happy ending right after the enemy was defeated. I think what it was meant to do is that it was supposed to play like a full season of the anime in a way kind of reminds me of the Makaiju arc, which, like I explained before, that was the mid-season between the Dark Kingdom and the Black Moon that happened only in the anime when they were waiting for the manga to catch up. So I think it was kind of meant to be that sort of filler where it was like, well, we're done with the Infinity arc. The Dream arc hasn't come out yet. Let's do our own thing, but not make it like part of the anime canon. You know, let's do a video game around it. And I think that's kind of cool, but... it's still like it didn't totally work for an RPG ending.
I actually really thought it worked just
wish
fine.
more games did that.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously you got your FF6s, of course, which is a different kind of ending. But like, in this game, I don't know, I haven't watched a lot of Sailor Moon, but I've watched enough anime in general to, like, I get the idea. So it's just like, I don't know, it's just like, well, we beat the bad guy. Bye.
Yeah.
I everything's like, what could be happier than everything being back to normal and them going back to school? You know, like that's the ideal situation, right? You don't need like a Persona 3 thing where it's like Sailor Moon fucking dies at the end.
Yeah, exactly. That would be
spoilers for those who didn't listen to those episodes.
Yeah. So here is the bad ending, and understand I'm looking at screenshots right now, so I'm probably, I may not get the full picture. This is the ending that I got as a kid because I sucked. So
I mean, the last boss is fucking hard.
So Sailor Moon is collapsed on the ground. Chibi Moon runs in. She says, I did it. I saved Mama and Papa. And so Apsu was like, ugh, you're also a Sailor Senshi? You're like 3 feet tall. And she's like, I'm not going to die to you. You're a fucking... tiny child. And then Anshar comes in and deflects a blow from Apsu.
Oh no.
Yeah, he says, I will defend you with my life. And calls out Sin, saying, he says, you're inside Apsu, right? Which, all sorts of fun implications from that.
Oh my.
And so he's trying to connect with Sin.
That makes sense, yeah.
Apsu tells him that Sin chose to fuse with her, and Sin says, that's correct. I'm going to destroy everything that threatens you. This world protected by the Silver Crystal and the princess. And Anshar reminds them of when their parents died and how Sin protected him, and that he prefers her that way. Apsu just kind of taunts them for it, and Luna tells Chibi Moon to use the Silver Crystal, which she does, and then Sin returns back to normal. This is after Chibi Moon's group has defeated Apsu.
Mm-hmm.
So Apsu is defeated. Fates should return to normal, Luna says. And then she says Anshar's fate will return to normal as well, and which Chibi Moon says, "Oh my god, you're gonna die," and Anshar says, "I'm just going back to a fate without Apsu." So after that, everybody ends up back at the time-space doorway. We don't get to see Anshar again.
No kiss.
Yeah, no kiss. So Chibi Moon says, Can I really not see Anshar anymore?" And Pluto says, "Well, that's not entirely true." And Uranus explains that Anshar and Sin would have different lives, and even if Anshar and Chibi Moon did meet, they wouldn't know each other at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So Usagi reminds her, well, she says, it's not like Anshar is dead. You can start over again. And Uranus immediately goes, "No, that won't work." And then Mercury says, "Well, if Chibiusa and Anshar meet again, the Gates of Fate could open, and then the Oppositio Senshi could come back and meet Apsu again." And Hotaru tries to explain it away as if we move away from our current time, the effects may weaken and not reach the time-space doorway. They may not go back to the fate that they went through with Apsu and everything. But Pluto says that would be, yeah, I know, it's a bunch of bullshit. Pluto says that would be many years into the future, during which Anshar and Small Lady cannot be together at all. And Chibiusa is really torn up about that. We find a cutscene where Chibiusa and Anshar are walking along, and they run into each other, and Chibiusa drops her locket, or her pendant.
Mm-hmm.
And she recognizes Anshar, but he doesn't recognize her. And it turns out that Anshar had the pendant. He didn't know where but he dropped it when they ran into each other. It's hard to tell from screenshots.
Yeah.
So he says he doesn't know where he got it. He's had it for a while, but when he has it, he says he feels really happy, like it's a special treasure. And he asks if she's okay. And he seems to like vaguely remember her, but thinks it's just his imagination that they haven't met before. And then Sin shows up and takes Anshar away. Setsuna shows up and talks with Chibiusa. She says he's been through a life without battles. These screenshots are also tiny. So I'm like squinting. She says if he meets us again, he may be taken into the fate of battle. And then Chibiusa and Setsuna leave together, and we end on a shot of Crystal Tokyo, and that's it.
Yo, that's a fucking good ending.
I like that ending a lot.
It is.
That's really good.
It's considered the bad ending because Chibiusa and Anshar aren't going to know each other anymore, but it is. I think it works out really well.
Yeah.
You know what I bet? I bet the way that the final boss is structured and how they don't tell you there's two endings and how it's super fucking hard, I bet they very much intend you to get the bad ending as the real ending.
Yeah.
Like, that's the real ending. The good ending is like, okay, if you're super... It's almost like if you break the game, then you also
Which
break
we
the
all
story.
totally
And the good ending doesn't actually, like, the good ending is like, what if none of the characters had to sacrifice at all because they were so strong,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen other games that do that, where it's like, yeah, if you really want to break the game, you can get this extra special super ending where none of the themes of the story matter because you broke it, and that's just part of games interactivity. And I like to think about this story that way too, because that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it a whole lot, and also it doesn't include a lot of heteronormativity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. It'd be like if you got the pure peace ending on your very first run of Undertale. Like, that's not very clearly not designed to happen.
Right.
You know, that's not supposed to fucking happen. But
Yeah.
it could theoretically. But if it does, it's actually not as good.
Dope.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, that was the game.
and I will say, I think it's really cool for something like Baby's First RPG to have two endings,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it does kind of encourage you to go back and either replay the game or replay from where you last saved, so that you can get better and do gooder.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Also, by the end of it, it was not Baby's first RPG.
Yeah. It definitely, like, it threw you a curveball for a while, because it seemed like it was going to be super easy and you could just cheese your way through it, but then it gets to a point where it's like, nope, shit's fucking real now.
Yeah.
And even though you can break it, you have to put thought into breaking it. Like, I know realizing that you can use time stop isn't exactly galaxy brain level material, but that's still engaging with the mechanics in a way that requires some effort. You know,
Right.
that a child especially would need to figure out for themselves.
Yeah,
which is
like,
pretty cool.
Baby's actual first RPG for most people, Pokemon. So many times I would be playing. My sister would come up to me like, "Hey, I can't beat this boss. Can you beat it for me?" And I would look, and she would just have her like level 80 Mudkip and like a level 3 Pidgey in her party because she caught the first Pokemon that you're supposed to catch and nothing else.
Yeah.
She's just played the game. So Baby's first RPG would not have them interacting with Pluto to do the time
Yeah,
stop.
totally.
Especially not.
Yeah, totally.
Especially not setting up a perpetual motion device of healing and cloning and time stopping and attacking to just hold down A. Like, baby wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, well, when
And it's...
I was going to say, when I first played it, I absolutely used Game Genie codes to get myself max toilettes because I didn't want to have to grind enough to be able to buy them. But
Nice.
at this point, like, having a fast forward feature, it took me...
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, and next week when I explain some of the deeper mechanics that I read about, it's actually even less baby. And I was interacting with some of the mechanics towards the end of the game, and it's fucking. If you ever were wondering why sometimes you have no idea why attacks do the amount of damage that they do, like they do more than you expected or less than you expected or something, I have an answer for that.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing that.
It's weird.
Cool. Well, I think that about does it for the week. Did you guys have anything else before we wrap up?
No, I was going to save our final thoughts and stuff for next week.
Cool.
Yeah.
As a little taste, I wanted to talk about the other Sailor Moon games because I've, of course, have been playing them.
Oh, yeah.
During this time. We'll talk about that, talk about how we like the whole game, we'll talk a whole lot about the stupid fucking thing we're going to be watching this weekend, and just have a little like Sailor Moon centric hangout. And
Yeah.
I am all for that.
I have one thing to say, just in case, because the game is technically over at this point. So if anyone does want to start playing Xenogears early, I'll go ahead and share what I was sharing with Sam, which is we are going to be playing to the game does technically have chapters. Actually, I forget what the name of the seventh chapter is, but whatever. If you decide to play the game early, here's how far you're playing. You're playing all the way through. You go through a forest, and in the forest there's like cutscenes and a boss and shit. And then when you get out of the forest, you are on the world map in a desert. Save your game immediately right there. That's as far as we're playing. I realize if people do want to start playing earlier, they probably would want to hear my tips, but I'll save the tips for next week because we got to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
We gotta wrap up.
All right. Well, with that, if you like what you hear and want to help us cover hosting costs and game costs, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/RPGbookclub. If you just want to talk to us, we have a Twitter at RPG Book Club. an email at rpgbookclub@gmail.com, and our favorite, our Discord, which doesn't have a catchy URL, so you can find a link in the description. Join us next week when we will be doing our wrap-up episode of Sailor Moon. We'll be, as we said, talking about all sorts of various Sailor Moon-related things, including the games, the live-action series, the manga, Crystal, what have you. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's going to be a good time.
For RPG Book Club, I've been Elias, Sailor Eli Warren.
I have been Sam Allman.
And I'm Michael Spiffl Webbin.
Toodaloo!
Love you, bye.
In the name of the moon, bye.
If over the thing, it sounded like you said, in the name of the moon, and I thought you were like looking for a joke, but you said bye.